Well, welcome to Nice and Easy Grocery Shops. This is John McDougall. I promised you a wealth of information today about our industry and our company, Nice and Easy Grocery Shops. And I've asked the assistance of some of the great folks that are part of the Nice and Easy team. I'm going to introduce each of them and ask them a question that will prompt them to give you some thoughts and ideas about where we stand and where we've come from in our relationships with people in the news industry. And I'd like to begin this morning by introducing Mr. Fran Deskowitz, who is the Senior Executive Vice President of Nice and Easy Grocery Shop, a veteran of 30 years with Nice and Easy, and also on the Board of Directors of our National Association of Convenience Stores. Fran has been the Vice Chair of Research for NACS, as well as the Chairman of the SOI, the State of the Industry Summit that is conducted every year to report back to the industry about the performance of various elements of our business. So Fred's going to talk a little bit about where we stand with the news industry and some of the numbers and information that's been gathered by NACS, and I'll turn it over to Fran.
Thanks, John. As part of my responsibility as Vice Chair of Research for NACS, we pull together industry data from as many different sources as we can to review it with the industry once a year. There are 32 product categories that we use for our industry. One of them is periodicals. And last year, periodicals, which does include newspapers, represented less than 1% of sales for our industry. It has been shrinking the last few years. I've been doing this for 6 years now, and it has been shrinking every year. I wish I could tell you that it was high on the list of things that we discuss in our meetings, but quite frankly, it's not. Obviously stacked up against beer, cigarettes, packaged bev, food service, it's just not going to resonate. In terms of gross margin dollars, which is the income we derive from the product, it is now down to about 0.6% of the money that we make of all the things we sell. Again, shrinking. Now, I don't suppose that's anything that you folks don't already know, but in terms of our industry, it paints kind of a bleak picture in that for many of our industry, it may be on its way out. I will say a good thing is that at this point, in terms of firms reporting selling periodicals and newspapers, 98% still report that they sell it. Now on another research front, I'm also chairman of the NACS Coca-Cola Research Council, and we've focused on shopper research in the last few years. And one of the growth platforms happens to be a group that they call My Store. And these tend to be people who are, they like rituals, they like routine. This is where you find the newspaper guy. And that's sort of, when I say guy, I mean it. It's a male shopper, baby boomer, if not older. They like coming to the stores, the newspaper, coffee, Sundays. It's part of a routine, it's part of a ritual. That is still there, and that has probably been the one area in this, with periodicals, that we haven't really developed any kind of a plan. So while in the big picture it looks a bit bleak, in terms of shopper research, that guy is still out there. There might be some things that we can do together to take advantage of that opportunity. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Fran. Good job. Nice information from NACS. We can learn a lot from that information because, after all, newspapers and magazines are destination items for us here at Nice and Easy. People plan their day around getting up and heading to the store and picking up their local newspaper, particularly on Sunday morning. I used to work those Sunday morning shifts, and I saw a lot of folks that came in for the New York Times and got to know many of our customers on just that one-on-one basis after putting their newspaper together for them on Sunday morning. So the next person I'd like to introduce is Matt Paduano. Matt is a Vice President of Nice and Easy in charge of purchasing, and he has direct relationships with all of the newspaper vendors and the suppliers we have in the magazine industry to our stores. I'd like to have Matt report a little bit about where things seem to be going in that area for Nice and Easy, as well as our vendors in that category. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, John. As John mentioned, I am in charge of all retail departments in our stores. And one of the biggest opportunities for me is to develop relationships with all our vendors. And that is usually the case with the major vendors, like the chip guys, the soda guys, the beer guys. One of the areas where some of that relationship is lacking is with the newspaper vendors, mainly because it's so fragmented. I mean, we have 36 corporate locations, and we have literally 35 or 36 different vendors delivering us those newspapers. Some are delivering one store, some are delivering multiple stores, so it's very difficult to develop a relationship with those vendors. Usually the only time you do end up talking to them with the newspaper vendors if there's a service dispute or if there's pricing issues or credit issues. One of the big opportunities for us is to continue to promote the newspapers along with our other products in the stores. I know in the past we have done coffee newspaper promotions, which I think have worked out very well. Some of the concerns that we have had with the newspaper vendors in the past for us has been inconsistent deliveries, obviously having a bunch of little vendors out there delivering our stores. We've run into things like credit issues. I mean, it is a very low margin category for us, but like Fran mentioned earlier, it is a destination. That is something that we will provide our customers and continue to provide our customers as well. One of the steps we have implemented or will be implementing soon is to try to consolidate a lot of our payments out there. As I mentioned, we have literally 35 newspaper distributors we deal with, and we have contracted with a scan-based trading group called Nexus group, which I'm sure many of you might know already since they are established in upstate New York. So as far from our standpoint, I think that will enhance the relationship as far as newspapers for us. It will eliminate a lot of the literally cutting 35 checks a week. We can get it down to one. I think it will give uniformity to the entire program, and as well as enhance the relationships between the distributors and the stores personnel, since vendors want it to be checked in, they want it to be checked out. There will be no credit issues or any disputes along those lines. There are opportunities with the newspapers, as I mentioned earlier. I think a lot of cross-promotional opportunities do exist, whether it's with our coffee program, or even we've done things with free newspapers as far as couponing and so on and so forth.
How often do you get to meet with some of the newspaper vendors or suppliers?
A good question. John asked how often I get to meet with the vendors. That's one of those areas where it definitely is lacking. There really isn't a relationship out there with the newspaper vendors. So, I mean, that's something that I would have to be proactive with in contacting some of our bigger newspaper suppliers and creating those relationships between Nice and Easy and them.
Thanks, Matt. Great job. I think there's some big opportunities for us to develop the relationships in a much tighter fashion, so we can get productive on both sides of the table here to produce more sales and generate things in our stores that we know we can sell, we just don't have access to, nor do we have the assistance from the people like the publishers who can help us design, for example, shelving and make that section of the store more appealing than it is right now. In many cases, the vendor walks into the store, throws down 50 newspapers and walks out. And they sit on the floor, or they sit on 2 milk crates, and there's no display, there's no function there that puts together a merchandising piece that attracts customers over to that item and says, I would like to buy today's newspaper. And I think we have some big opportunities for that type of activity, and that's why I'm anxious to see Matt get more of the vendors and publishers in to see us and to develop programs together. At this point, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jack Cushman, who is the Vice President of Food Operations for Nice and Easy Grocery Shops. Jack brings a wealth of information and ideas and experience from the food industry. He's a veteran of 10 years with Nice and Easy Grocery Shops, and he's really helped us develop a food service program at Nice and Easy that's the best, one of the best, if not the best, in our industry. There's a lot going on in the food industry in terms of how they market their products. You can watch the recent McDonald's ads on TV and some of the things happening with Wendy's and other folks. You can also know from your own experiences that in the past the food industry has been a big, utilized a lot of coupons that were distributed through newspapers and so forth. And Jack has seen this transition going on that started probably 5 to 6 to 10 years ago. And he also has some thoughts about where it's going to end up and how it's going to affect Nice and Easy as we move forward in the food service industry. So with that, I'll introduce Dr. Jack Cushman.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the kind words. My job here at Nice and Easy allows me to get involved with the National Restaurant Association so I can be in tune with what that industry is doing, because my charge here is to make sure the food service department continues to be successful. A little historical background on how that industry markets. It's been radio, newspaper ads, freestanding inserts have always been a big opportunity, cable television and billboards and things of that nature. That's historically how the industry operated in terms of marketing. But things are changing very, very rapidly. When I was at the NRA this year, one of the things that just stood out in all the seminars and also in the booths was with social media. We all know what social media is doing, but the trend is getting louder and louder and louder in terms of how that particular industry goes to market. There was a survey that National Restaurant Association completed, and what they found was 90% of the operators believe that social media is a huge influence going into the future. They rank ordered the different vehicles, and the first one was Facebook as the #1. Also smartphone apps, and then Twitter came in third, then YouTube, Yelp, text messages, blogs, and Flickr. So obviously these are the things that are going to be in the future. Jared's going to talk in a minute, who can tell you much more about that, and Nice and Easy's already participated in some of those avenues. As far as other ways we go to market, direct mails has always been a very strong vehicle for food service and retail as well. And we continue to see that go in the future, direct mails to the individual homes. Television is also a big media. When I'm out in the stores with John, I never am out there when someone doesn't come up to him and comments on the television ads that John has been on, so obviously they're very effective. The consumers see that. Matt mentioned also the newspaper ads with a combination of the newspaper and the coffee. That's been one of our most successful campaigns. And quite frankly, if the newspaper industry could do more research and to find out what highly correlates, we know coffee does, but are there other things that help us promote the newspaper as well as food service items or anything that's in our stores? I think that would be great. As I see the future, if I was to peer into it, I would say that paperless is going to be a big piece of this. And when you get into paperless, then you have online newspapers, you have all the different social media outlets for coupons and things of that nature. So that's how I see the future of the restaurant industry, and of course Nice and Easy will be a part of that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Great information, because food service certainly is an element of our business that we're focusing on very, very directly, and has produced some great results for us. And obviously it produces the margins that we need to survive and make a profit in this business. So we are going to rely on those words of wisdom from the NRA and follow that direction, because when they talk about marketing, they know what they're doing. And we certainly will follow that plan. At this point, I'd like to take time and introduce Jared Sturdivant. Jared is a 16-year veteran with Nice and Easy Grocery Shops. He's a young guy that's progressed all the way up through the ranks of Nice and Easy, from a part-time clerk on up to the director of marketing for Nice and Easy. A couple of years ago, I asked Jared to take on some new responsibilities. I felt that the digital marketing is an area that we hadn't explored yet. And Jared, being a young guy, was really familiar with some of the things that I was totally unfamiliar with. And we needed somebody new and young and with a lot of enthusiasm to go out and help build a program for Nice and Easy that would be effective in that media for us. And so Jared has taken on that responsibility, and he's done a terrific job of working with various vendors and people out in the marketplace to teach us and to show us and to help us build a digital marketing program. So with that, Jared's going to tell you a little bit about how that relates to your business and what progress we've made there and what our future holds for the digital marketing of Nice and Easy Grocery Shops.
Thanks, John. As Matt and Jack both alluded to, we do advertise moderately on television. We do some radio in rural areas on the fringe of our cable coverage. Our most effective marketing campaign is our direct mail piece, which we send out 190,000 mailers 3 times a year. Our customers really look forward to that, and I think it's a personalized touch having that single piece come in the mail, their address to them. versus doing an insert or coupons in a newspaper. And as John alluded to, 2 years ago we began our first social media campaign and our digital marketing. Currently we're very active on Facebook. We've built a robust following. We also are on Twitter, YouTube as well. Most recently we launched Nice and Easy Deals mobile app. We feel that mobile advertising, as banner ads, text marketing, and our app give us a direct line to our customers. You know they're not going to miss that. 99% of them are going to see the message because they've asked to see it, which is actually unlike Facebook. When we advertise on Facebook, or I guess have conversations on Facebook, only about 1 to 20% of the people that actually follow us ever see those posts. Facebook's really allowed us to nurture our relationships with our customers. When they come to that resource, they tend to give us good feedback. Sometimes we get some complaints, and it allows us to respond to those customers in a public forum. I think they appreciate that, and it gives us a point of difference with our competition. We are one of the only ones that are doing a really good job with social media right now. As far as newspaper advertising, we've run a limited number of newspaper campaigns. The one Jack and Matt mentioned with newspaper and a coffee bundle isn't us advertising in the newspaper typically. It's us just doing a combination with it. We've ran coupons in newspapers. Currently we're doing a campaign weekly for our Brewerton location. We only get like 20 coupons back each week, but our text club, which reaches 8,000 people, we get 200 to 300 back, and with the newspaper we're doing with Brewerton, we're sending out 10,000. So you can see that the power of our digital marketing is much more so than when we do a campaign with print. Where newspaper companies have been the greatest assistance is providing us digital marketing solutions, which wasn't the case just a few years ago. We were approached by Syracuse.com, the Post Standard, 2 years ago, and we started our first online banner ad campaign with the Microsoft Media Network. We have been approached by 3 or 4 local newspaper companies with digital solutions to do similar advertising, and not just on their websites, but on a larger network. So, as you can see, we've moved rapidly into social media over the past 2 years, and we feel that's the direction that everything's really going. We'll continue to reach out and use traditional methods of marketing. There are some customers that that appeals to, but a major portion of our effort is going to be in digital.
Here that still, you know, we sell newspapers now. Does that go away? Does I guess
I think that will gradually go away. I mean, for us, I think the media is progressing. It's still expanding, but you know, we don't profit from digital. We don't sell digital newspapers at our store. You know, we're still selling the hard print ones. So I mean, even though Syracuse.com is, you know, Syracuse Post Standard selling fewer papers, a lot is converting to digital, and for them, yeah, there's a cost savings on there now. You know, already capturing enough ad revenue online to, you know, offset lower readers.
I mean, you just got to be creative, but there are some solutions, and the fact that we have Wi-Fi and the ability to require passwords and things to do things could get you a digital edition of their paper while you're there in the store.
That's
well,
not
maybe one of the things, Jared can answer this better than I can, is that with our app, could they go to the Nice and Easy app, and that app could direct them to some of their favorite newspapers or some of the publications that they really like to do, so that if we had a connection or some kind of relationship with whatever newspaper it was, they go to the app, they get the Nice and Easy news, they see the promotions, and they say, well, I want to read the Syracuse Post Standard today. And they can make that transition from the Nice and Easy app to the Post Standard. Is that something that you see happening in this business?
It's a unique idea. Actually, we could do it, and we probably could actually make it location-based. So if you were a Watertown customer and your GPS says you're in Watertown, it would bring you to that local paper, and in Syracuse would take you to Syracuse.
Well, the paper piece of this is shrinking down to where it's a negligible part of our sales. We're trying to streamline how we buy it, but we don't have a whole lot of input or discussion with these folks, and yet where we did have one, it was very productive because we got into the digital media and efforts and social networking with the Post, and in food service, you know, there's print media. This has not been a productive way to advertise. So you go back all this way around, you kind of circle around. you know, we need to redefine our relationship with these folks. We need to, going back like what Matt was saying, we need to have more face-to-face meetings.
The advertising side, they actually.
The meetings we've had have been productive. So as we look forward, we know this relationship is going to change significantly. We need to start thinking now how to do that. And we can't do that unless we
Yeah, well,
put our heads together. And
the other medias have already started this, and they're,
Yeah.
you know, like the TV stations, the radio stations, they're well into this thing, okay? The people that are kind of late to the game are the people from the newspapers and the print media, would you say?
Some.
Some.
Some excel, some.
But we're not, I mean, we're not selling any, and part of that is our own marketing efforts, yes, but in terms of a product that they're producing that we're selling, and we don't sell anything from television or social media or, you know, so you gotta think about, okay, how, if they're going to sell a product and we're gonna, if they're gonna produce a product, we're gonna sell their product. You gotta get creative in how you keep those revenue streams going. And I think maybe number one on our agenda is how does the print media and we as a retailer get together to sell a product?
Like Syracuse.com, there's an app there. I mean, you can download it and not pay for your newspaper.
Yeah.
I mean, so how do you profit from something that's free?
Well, that's,
You know, I mean,
but that's,
you know, I mean,
So many ads.
there's a Syracuse app. I mean, that's why I quit getting the paper. I was reading this.
You
I
read
was
the paper? You read the
Yes,
paper?
very slowly.
If it's free.
It's free.
but that's my point, man. If there, right now, we're still dealing with a retail component of this. And there is an experience with that retail component that has meaning to people. The Sunday papers, that still has meaning to people. But if we honestly believe that the retail piece of this, which is the product they make that we sell, that has, something's gonna change there. And I don't know how it's gonna change, but it is gonna change. And we aren't gonna know how to do that unless we get together with them and figure it out.
I hope our presentation from Nice and Easy Grocery Shop was productive for you this morning. We put some thought and effort into this. I think we bring some good ideas to the table. And we'd be glad to work with anybody on anything out there. So find us in Canastota and come up and present your idea, and we'd be glad to sit down and see what we can do together with you. I've enjoyed the opportunity of putting this together and listening to some of the great thoughts that you heard this morning. Quite frankly, it wasn't until we started to plan for this video that we had taken the time to sit down and think about some of these opportunities that are very potentially usable for us at Nice and Easy, and we hadn't taken the time to do that before. So now I think because of this, you've made us a stronger, better company, and we can do some things in this area that I think we hadn't thought of before. So thanks for giving us this opportunity, and we look forward to working with you in the future.